Welcome back everybody to another episode on the channel. Today's episode, guys, we are going to be going over everything that you need to know about fishing a punching rig, from the gear that you need to the rod, the reel, the line, and how to fish it. We're going to go through every single thing that you need to know about fishing a punching rig, and it's a very great technique for this time of the year when it's super hot. So like I said, guys, we are going to be talking about the punching rig. So before we jump into that though, guys, today's episode is actually sponsored by Monster Bass. If you guys have never heard of Monster Bass, they have been a long time supporter of the channel, guys. I absolutely love Monster Bass. Monster Bass is a monthly subscription, and it's not a box, it's a bag. You guys, every single month, your lures and baits come in a bag. Now, I love the bag because, for one, I store a lot of soft plastics in these bags, and they're really durable. And if you just need to like make up a day bag, maybe you're gonna go out shore fishing, the bags are great for that, guys. They're reusable and they're actually really good quality. Also, guys, Monster Bass is a regional subscription. So what they do is they hand pick the baits and lures in this bag for the region of the country that you fish in. So I fish in the Midwest, so a lot of the stuff that I get is going to be a little bit different than if you're fishing down in Florida or Texas, or out on the West Coast or East Coast. So they hand pick for the region of the country that you fish in. Texas is a lot hotter than it is here in the Midwest. So but that's what I love about it. So no matter where you are in the country, guys, if you guys are interested, they hand pick these things. So if you guys want to try out Monster Bass, I will link them down below in the description as well, so you can click that link, take you over to the website, and if you use the code SAVE10, that will also be down below in the description if you forget, but the code SAVE10 save you guys $10 off your purchase with Monster Bass. And if you guys haven't already, make sure you like and subscribe to the channel, hit the little bell notification so you never miss when we upload a new video here on the channel. Now the punching rig, guys. So the punching rig is one of my favorite techniques in the summertime because it's super hot. So when it's super hot, the bass generally go deep, or they get up underneath lots of matted vegetation. I also really love a punching rig as a follow-up after when I'm frogging. So if I'm throwing a frog and the bass misses the frog and I throw the frog in there again and they don't hit the frog the second time around, I actually throw in a punching rig, and like 90% of the time I'll say those fish will actually bite the punching rig. So it's a great follow-up bait. But we're gonna go through everything about the punching rig, and I'm gonna grab it right here and I'm gonna show you guys before we get into the rod, the reel, and the line and all that. I'm gonna go ahead and pull off the punching rig that I've set up right now and show you guys basically what it is, down to the hook, the weight, and then how you guys basically set it up. So like I said, it's a great technique for hot summer days. It's one of my favorites for the summertime just in general, because I love to fish shallow. I love just smacking bass in like thick vegetation. So basically this is what the punching rig looks like. So as you guys can see, big tungsten weight, and then you got your plastic. So I'm gonna take the plastic off and we'll talk about the hook here really quick, and then we'll talk about the weight and kind of how that's set up. So the hook on here, guys, is actually a 5/0 flipping hook. So you guys can see this is a 5/0 flipping hook. It's not like an EWG, it's just an actual flipping hook. So these work really good. You want a good strong hook when you're flipping in thick vegetation. You guys can see that I have an ounce tungsten weight on here. So an ounce weight is really the lightest I go. An ounce and a half works really well. And then we're gonna peg it with a bobber stopper. So how this works, guys, is this bobber stopper comes all the way down and the weight can't move and it's tight to the hook. Now you'll have your plastic on here, and then when you throw this up in the air, it punches through the vegetation like this. So all that weight just punches right through the vegetation. Basically the goal of the punching rig, guys, is throw on a plastic. Now you don't want anything with a lot of appendages. As you guys can see, this plastic here has very little appendages on it. You don't want a lot. You want something that's gonna not get hung up on any vegetation when it punches through. So when this goes through the water column, you're gonna punch through the vegetation, and then it's basically just gonna go to the bottom, and you're just going to kind of jig it there a few times. And after you jig it there a few times, you're basically just gonna reel it out of that area and throw it back in there. But that's basically the gist of the punching rig. Is you're kind of flipping it like you would a Texas rig, but you're not really dragging it back to you. So as you guys can see, that is what it looks like in entirely just like that. So when it punches through the vegetation, you're gonna throw it up. A lot of times when you cast this thing out, you're actually gonna like flip it up in the air so it has some height, and then it really punches through those thick mats of vegetation. That's why it's called punching rig. So you punch through that vegetation and it sits on the bottom like this, and then you just bring it up. A lot of times I bring it up till I feel it like tap the lily pads or tap the matted vegetation, and I just jig it a few times, and then if I don't get bit, you pull it right out of that area. You're not gonna be able to drag this back to you through all that vegetation. It's not gonna work well. You're just gonna wanna punch. So lots of times, like I said, those fish sit under those mats in the punching rig. This is the gist of it. That's how you set it up. Bobber stopper with the tungsten weight, 5/0, 5/0, 6/0, whatever, big flipping hook, and a plastic on there that doesn't have a lot of appendages. You set up the Texas or the punching rig. Now, when it comes to a rod, let's talk about rod, because when you are fishing a punching rig, you need something that's heavy duty. So what I have is, now it doesn't really matter what the brand is, but I have the Akuma Serrano. Now this is a 7.3 heavy fast action rod. Now if I'm punching in thinner vegetation, that's what I'm using. This rod is the 7.3 heavy. This is the Akuma, the Serrano. It's a really nice rod. And then I'm using a high speed reel. Now this is a 7.3-to-1 reel. I don't have any line on this one right now, but 7.3-to-1 reel. You want a high speed reel because you want to be able to get that fish up and out of that vegetation. And I'm using like 50 to 60 pound braids. Sometimes in super matted stuff, guys, with my really heavy setup that I'll show you guys, I'm using like 80-pound braid. But big stout rod. You want a heavy rod, you want a longer rod so you have leverage to get the fish out. You want a really high speed reel with a lot of heavy braid on there. Now this is for like my lighter punching setup, if that makes any sense to you guys. Now this is the heavy duty one right here. This thing is this is from ALX Rods. It's the Icos Thunder. This thing right here, guys, is a 711 extra heavy fast or moderate action rod. So this is 7'11". It's super long so that you get a lot of leverage out of that out of this rod when you're setting the hook. Now this is for super thick vegetation, but this is an extra heavy. So this thing is tough. This thing is a big stout rod. This is for super thick. I'm flipping like 1.5 ounces tungsten on this thing. Now this one I'm using a 7 1-to-1 reel on there. I would prefer to go faster. You want to be able to get that fish up and out, but this is like 80-pound braid, guys. This stuff is thick. This is for, I'm using 1.5 ounces tungsten. That's a big weight, and I'm punching with just a huge rod because a lot of times you got to get leverage on those fish. You got to be able to get that strong, big hook to punch through their mouth. So this is the big rod that I'm using. You fish this, guys. So a lot of times when you're fishing a punching rig, you're flipping it up into the air and you're punching through, like I said, and you're just jigging it there. A lot of times they'll hit it on the fall, you'll feel that bite, and then you just set to the moon. It's thick vegetation. You gotta set hard. So there you guys have it. That is pretty much everything you need to know about fishing a punching rig. If you guys have any questions that I missed, leave them down in the comments below, and I'll do my best to answer them. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. Remember to like and subscribe, and we'll see you guys on the next one.